Miami, the worst dating market in the world? Well, today we discuss. Miami, we all know that has arguably the one of the worst dating markets in the world. However, is actually the worst? I will say no because it has value. I mean, Miami is a beautiful city, a beautiful place. But regarding the dating market, the synergy that you see over there is not quite the best. So we all see on, social media or movies or Grand Theft Auto that Miami has this particular vibe that, by the way, I love the Miami vibe. Scarface, one of my favorite movies throughout time. And the Miami vibe is cool. Miami is a cool place to live. Don't get me wrong on that. And been several times over there, but is not my particular cup of tea. Regarding dating, I'm not gonna say it's the worst place, but it's actually a very overpriced place for dating. First, let's talk about the economy on Miami, specifically the prices, the cost of living, and so on. And regarding cost of living, the city is not as expensive for US standards as you might think. But the issue is that Miami is, something that reminds me of other countries worldwide, is that the cost of just making ends meet is it's expensive because, in the rest of the US has gotten very expensive. But the comparison between that particular threshold of just making ends meet and actually having a great standard of living, the spread is quite high. So basically, you have this particular, if you apply the Gini coefficient for inequality in Miami, arguably has one of the most unequal cities within the United States. Now, I'm not going to talk if inequality is good or bad. However, affects seriously the dating market. The issue is that now let's go with the dating side, that women have this particular mindset where they always want the best. I mean, women have this particular, let's say, radar on their eyes that they only want the best. And the particular case of Miami is that the best usually are celebrities, Latin hip hop music stars, the NBA players, people like that. Of course, you have your typical entrepreneur, empresario that is quite successful, a bunch of crypto guys, very cool on that. So women only see that scope, that particular radar is only for that. But that is not the reality for 99.9% of the gentlemen in Miami. So what ends up happening is that the ask and the bid on the dating market, the spread is huge. And that's why you have, therefore, a terrible market for not only for the average individual, that the dating market is awful for the average individual overall, depending on the city, of course. But in the particular case of Miami, if you are top 10, top 20% of the gentlemen in Miami, well, what ends up happening is that still you're going to have a terrible experience, or you have to overspend in order to get something going on over there. Also, something that you have to consider within the culture in Miami, that, South Florida has a particular culture compared to the rest of the United States, at least the rest of the major cities within the US, is that in Miami, of course, you have a very big presence of the Latino population. So in Latin America, Miami is seen as an aspirational thing. Visiting Miami, owning properties in Miami, doing fancy things in Miami, and so on. So it's basically the dream, the promised land for a lack of a better word, for thoughts within Latin America. So they cherish Miami. Other thing that happens is that within Latin America, usually rich people they travel a lot to Miami, and also they own properties and things like that. I'm looking the rich people in Latin America, so they are not migrants. They are people who live in Latin America and go very regularly and own properties and things like that. Here's another factor that, by the way, that's one of the reasons of gentrification in Latin America. What happens is that in the United States, the rich people are usually people like Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos and a bunch of people. So most of the millionaires are, quote unquote, self-made millionaires. Meanwhile, in Latin America, most of the millionaires are usually corrupt government officials and their families and dealers, let's put it like this, and also rich people that own land and own a bunch of farmlands and a bunch of businesses in Latin America. So they are, rich kids, basically the trust fund babies of such countries. And of course, you have one successful entrepreneur every now and then that is a self-made millionaire. However, what ends up happening is that something that you have to see, the criteria, the consumer behavior and spending behaviors of a self-made millionaire, that he worked very hard in order to create wealth. Very good for them. If you are one of those, shout out to you. It's going to be different because you know how difficult it was. So you are more conscious on your investments and your spending and la la la. Meanwhile, these people, the most of the Latino rich men, they don't know it because they did not earn that money. They did not earn it. And what happens is that they don't know the value of the money. They are rich, they are millionaires, and in some cases they are billionaires, but these particular people don't create value. So they are just like rich kids. And of course, you have the bona fide rich kids. So these people overspend, they buy mansions and they buy properties, or they have dining experience on places that cost like $10,000 a table, something like that, and the VIP bottle services and all that jazz. So actually, that particular people, the Latino rich, is actually the one of the reasons why Miami is so goddamn expensive. Because usually someone in Miami, let's say, making $200,000 per year, cool on that. If that's your particular case, I mean, good for you, honestly. You're going to be more conscious on your spending, especially on a very expensive city like Miami, because you are earning your own money. So you are a self-made entrepreneur or employee, whatever may be the case. Meanwhile, these people, they are not. So they are not going to be as conscious. They are going to enter in bidding wars for VIP services or for fancy properties and services and things like that. Gentrification. So that also causes gentrification throughout dating. It's a compounding effect on the dating world. Because yet again, we mentioned that women only see the top-notch things, not the average. So they're going to see, combine these particular rich Latinos combined with the superstars, the celebrities, the billionaires, so on and so on and so on. So they enter on this particular bidding war dynamic of overspending. Women see that, and that's where the female attention, is gonna go through. Also, that you have to add, yet again, with the Latino aspect of Miami, is that since women in Latin America see this behavior a lot on social media, TikTok, Instagram, things like that, the particular women in Latin America that they have this, let's say, sugar baby-esque mentality, they are very drawn to Miami. So when they migrate to the United States, they usually go to a city like Miami, and many times is Miami indeed. So they are hunting for, in order to try and aspire to live that particular lifestyle. And that particular lifestyle can be only provided by a fraction of a percentage of the whole gentleman's population within Miami. Now, the dynamic in Miami is brutal for the reasons that I just mentioned, and also the supply for eligible bachelorettes is not as high as many think. For instance, I remember the last time I went to Miami a few years ago, and I was on South Beach on Ocean Drive, one of the most posh places, exotic places in the world, you might argue. And I was walking, just on a weekend, and I said, I'm not seeing that much beautiful women here. And I said to myself, and I put it on Twitter, I remember years ago, is that, on my local pharmacy, I see more beautiful women than in Ocean Drive in South Beach. So basically, you combine all of these, gravitas of rich men outbidding each other with not necessarily the best quality. I know in Miami there are a bunch of beautiful women. I know that. But the issue is that you're not going to see it day by day unless you go to a particular restaurant, particular place, particular nightclub, something like that. But they are there. I mean, I know they are there. But the issue is that on per capita terms are not as great as you think. And the people, of course, if you go to social media and you put South Beach, something like that, you're going to see a bunch of, baddies. But the quantity is not as great. There is a bunch of quality, physical quality at least. But the end result is that on quantity, they are not as much. And you have a bunch of men outbidding each other for this pool that is significant, but it's not particularly special. Now, for the people that I know in Miami, collaborators, former clients, acquaintances, and so on, how they date good in Miami? Well, the first ones that I see very successfully dating are the gay guys. I'm sorry, but it is what it is. Apparently, it's cool for gay guys to date in Miami. No, but this is not this. This content is not about that. Anyways, the people that are successful over there in Miami, what I see they do, and my intel boots on the ground, is that usually they do some sort of a very specific networking in order to access a pool of candidates, eligible bachelorettes, in order to date successfully over there. But it cannot be advertised. It has to be, like underground, something like that. And of course, the other strategy is you are very good looking, very rich, very successful. And also, specifically in Miami, you need gravitas. Something, bululu, la la la, regarding social media and being some sort of DJ. I mean, I'm not saying you have to be David Guetta or something like that. Just being, a cool DJ that everyone follows, something like that. Plus being a millionaire and successful and all that jazz. Cool on that. So basically, those are the two options that I see in Miami: is either an excellent network or just beat the system, be very good looking, very successful with a lot of gravitas and money, of course. But if you are not on these both cohorts of gentlemen, I would just suggest to do geo arbitrage. Thank you for watching Continental Insider. Please like, share, and subscribe. Follow us on social media. And if you want to work with us, continentalinsider.com. Thanks again and have a nice day.